Hi everybody and welcome to SA Rugby Magazine. I'm Kevin Ferguson and I've got James Dalton and Mark Keohane. Welcome guys.
Good morning gentlemen. Hope you're all well.
Yeah, thanks, I'm well.
Happy New Year, belated Happy New Year.
You know, I say this, it's a big weekend in rugby, but it doesn't feel like it, does it?
Yeah, we normally say it's a big weekend in cricket. We'd have some team here, we would have just played the New Year's test and that. Yeah, very different setup, this Currie Cup. I think kudos, they managed to get a competition out the way, Super Rugby unlocked in Currie Cup, but
it's been shit.
It's been an awful product. The players have looked disinterested. It looks like they're playing out of season. Yeah. There's been no crowds there's been no atmosphere, and people have either been in lockdown or on holiday. It's like this Currie Cup has come and it's going, and it can't really go quick enough.
But to add to that, I think Mark and Kevin, I think if you look at obviously the overall circumstances, it prevails with the hardly training, no crowds, the mental and psychological effect that COVID has had on people, affects obviously people in different mindsets. And I think that's also been a result why probably the competition hasn't shot the lights out and been pretty average, as we've just agreed on.
Yeah, and I think, sorry Kevin, and we spoke earlier to say that with them knowing there's no test rugby at the moment.
That's it. Well, you know, it's a big carrot, isn't it? The playing for a Buck jersey, as James you'll attest to. You take that away from the situation. You introduce playing rugby in a different time. You introduce sort of strict protocols and bubble-like living to try and avoid as much contact.
And you know, to add to that, Kevin, it's, you know, everybody is affected mentally and emotionally differently by this COVID thing, and I think that's also where players also lose maybe that desire, that intensity, that passion to play. They're more worried and concerned about families and the elderly and their grandparents, and
especially the you're right, James, and especially in, you know, there's a lot of the Afrikaans guys. A lot of the rugby players have a lot of faith and Christians and strong religious convictions. So they're very tight, and you know, so they do have those concerns. And also, not only just playing for a Buck jersey, but almost, you know, with games being broadcast and all that, Mark, guys are always playing for their careers, aren't they? And with Europe not being on the table this year and not being able to be bought by, I mean, we were chatting earlier about Sia and his value. No one can afford him, as we were talking about. And if they can't afford someone like Sia, no one can afford anybody really in sports. What we're seeing now is we're seeing sponsorships lapsing, and because of the uncertainty in the world, no one's renewing, or not many people, or a far lot less companies are renewing sponsorship deals. So, you know, the whole world's just turned upside down from a sports point of view. It's been,
generally speaking, I mean, you know, I have some friends in the advertising industry, and they're saying that companies have cut their advertising budgets by like 80%. So you must know, for sponsors, not having the crowds and those eyeballs, which adds to the brand value, it's a problem. It's a problem.
Yeah, and I think you talk about that crowds and what makes a semi-final and a final something different. It's an occasion. This isn't an occasion. It's just another match. It's another 80 minutes they got to get through, and then they get to play next week, and then someone gets a trophy, and it will always have an asterisk next to it. I just think that players feed off 40,000, 50,000 people. They're either playing to stun someone, they're playing to kind of reward the faith that people have in them. And as much as we keep on saying, but it's the guy's a professional, he should be up there.
Sure.
I really do get why it's been so limp and why it's been so kind of
I think it's also been limp because they're only getting 40% of their salaries now.
So it's
so sorry, I have to say this when you're talking about players performing in front of crowds. So if I was playing today, I'd then just run to the corner and score the try in the corner. If it was in front of crowds, I'd do a sidestep or two.
So you used a sidestep. You know, the one guy that did say it when the Super Rugby Unlock started, Sia Kalisa, the first match they had against the Lions down here, and they won just near the end. It was just a turgid game. It was an evening game, and he was the only player that I've actually scene go public, and he said it was so difficult to play with no one there. He said it just felt like they were at training, and there was just nothing that was getting them going. There's nothing to lift them, nothing to kind of like put them on edge. You've never heard other players say that they talk the right game. You're playing for the jersey, you're still playing for certain things, but that psychology is we can't underestimate it. You miss a tackle here, you don't have 30,000 screaming at you. You have your mates saying you get the next one right. That urgency has been lacking for me in all the games, and where talk about the Bulls being at home and that home ground advantage. It's a familiar stadium to them, but even in that last league match that we saw, the Bulls were hanging on in the end. But when they went 99 up with their bench, you would have expected that surge with 40,000 people there. It wasn't. They didn't take an easy 3 points, which should have been 22-9. They let the Lions back into the game. They edged, and in the end, they were hanging on for a victory. So,
look, this has been without doubt. Like we were chatting about some stats. You're talking about the soccer stats, and that pre-COVID, with full stadiums, at 67% of the decisions from a foul, free kick point of view are going in the way of the home team. Now that's down to 51 or 49%, so it's almost split down the middle. So from those sort of, when you have a shift, a statistical shift, that's a huge statistical shift in terms of possession. When you're giving away possession with free kicks and everything else, when you start factoring all those other things into it,
they all effectively come intertwined.
Yeah, they do. So there's a lot of. I think Las Vegas had their biggest record amount of money that they made in November of 2020, and I give sporting advice and stuff like that. So it's been the worst year. I've shown a profit in the funds that I run and everything else, but it's been the worst year I've ever had. Trying to figure it all out, home advantage gone. But
first of all, there was nothing in the beginning. Then it led to.
Well, when you handicap a game, James, you say, okay, well, the Bulls are at home, so that's worth 5 points straight away, and then you start looking at all the other factors. You forget about those 5 points. Home advantage, I don't think has much meaning unless it's maybe on the Highveld with a bit of with the conditioning and stuff like that. But we've just slammed the rugby for about 10 minutes now. Let's try and get up for the weekend.
Look, I think when you talk home advantage, the one thing that Dobbo will probably be trying to inspire his players with this would...
Is Dobbo still the coach?
He is. This would officially, if the Bulls win, they get the home ground advantage. This would officially be the last game at Newlands. So go out and make it a winning game for the province side. Get them to play for something that their last match there in a province jersey was a victory against the Sharks. They've had 2 games against the Sharks, Super Rugby unlocked in the league. Both have been called off because of COVID 48 hours before the game. Let's hope to God that before Saturday it doesn't get called off again. And both of those games were very influential and also in determining Super Rugby unlocked because they just scared the points and the Bulls basically cantered to the win. So I think what's going to be interesting about the weekend is that both games will be very close. There's not a blowout anywhere. I don't think one team is significantly that much stronger than anyone. The Bulls have been, for me, the best team since Super Rugby unlocked, but they seem to have plateaued a bit as well, where the Lions have been the big improvers.
Massive.
Against
Completely against all odds, consistently balanced.
Those youngsters have come through. They play a nice brand, and there's on both sides. I see 5 to 7 points in the game, and if I'm picking the Sharks to sneak it at Newlands and the Bulls to sneak it up there. But if it was the other way around, I wouldn't be overly surprised. I think what makes it a very good semi-final is all 4 teams you have the possibility of going through to that final.
What you're saying is, it's, although there's no crowds and we've attached all these negative connotations and been quite, slamming, damning, whatever you want to call it.
Honest.
The fact is that they're going to be 2 semi-finals. They're going to be highly contested, and it's not going to be like for sitting on your couch at home watching one side totally overrun the other side. So I think from that point of view, there's the positivity in it.
And I also think that if you've got 4 teams, which has proved again, those are the 4 best teams. As much as we love the Cheetahs, They are number 5 in the country.
I don't love the Cheetahs.
Everyone loves the
They're the
Cheetahs.
darling of SA
Everyone
Rugby.
loves the Cheetahs. Could you please leave the room now? So it's the balance of power is spread across all 4, which is a good thing from a national perspective. It's not like you think the Bok team's made up of 11 Bulls. And but like the New Zealand sides when they were strong, it was Crusaders dominated.
Yes.
It's a nice spread of balance and good contest. But the one thing that has been very noticeable for me is if you see the Lions' big improvement came with Yanni du Plessis coming back, Willem Albert's coming back, Jacob Kriel coming back.
Massive.
So when these players went overseas, everyone's like, it's not the Boks necessarily that struggled because they can still be available for the Boks. It's the fabric of your Super Rugby and your Currie Cup that got robbed. You had like 3 regional sides playing overseas. I just see in Alberts, he's made such a big difference. The bone crusher is back. He's making big tackles.
Well,
he leads.
it's
bone collector.
Yeah, you know, it's like it's like you say, you almost come back from the UK with a bigger aura and a bigger like presence on the field, and just having you on the field and the impact that those players have made.
Well, international travel and relocation gives it does help immensely with people's confidence. In any level, whether sport or business or anything like that, competing on different fields. And you saw it, I think we started to see the effects of it with Monty when he went away and came back. I mean, he was a completely different player. And then there was other players that followed, and their experience overseas was huge for their career growth.
Well, I just think a guy like Morné Steyn, who spent 5 years in France, and to me, he's a better player today at 36 than he ever was when he played for the Springboks. And this is a guy who scored 31 points against the All Blacks in a test match. So he was never a mug. But everyone's like, 36, how can you consider him for the national setup? Easily. I think he's a guy who would comfortably in the mix of a squad of 30 with that kind of experience. And you see Dwayne was a better player when he came back from his time at Toulon as well. So this obsession with the public as well as saying, time to move on, bring in the young kid. No, phase the young kid in and keep the good old guy there as well.
But what is wrong with age? Everyone's fixated with age. I mean, you know, I know it's all relative now. I mean, you're looking at like a Mark Tyson, Roy Jones having these celebrity bouts, but whatever. But if a player is still good at 36, then he's good at 36. It doesn't mean because he's 36, he's not good anymore.
No, but I mean, I think when you're looking for a team, James, and you're looking to invest in your team, you're looking to build and look at the future. So you wonder how much, and you usually have to pay a premium for some of this experience. Wow. So it's difficult to manage the books.
And there it goes, speaks for itself. You've got two of the guys with the biggest checkbooks heading up, spearheading the Bulls funding. Yeah. You know, and
look, I do think, and we give Jake all the credit there. He identified the type of team he had to build. Strong forward pack with good kicking halves, and looked at the local talent, which is very good expansive backs that he had.
Yeah.
Putting Cornell Hendricks to number 12, a master stroke in terms of selection, playing him next to Morné Steyn and bringing through Chris Smith, who schooled at Sax, went to Stellenbosch University, played in the Varsity Cup, went to the Pumas, a good player, but has learned so much playing next to, with a guy like Morné Steyn, understood who he wants at 9, understood what he needed to get in his pack.
Well, just also
so he bought very strategically. He didn't just go out and buy 10 oldies and bring them back. He said, I want an 8.
So is he coach of the year?
He's definitely domestic coach of the year, Kev. Oh, well, Dobbo, I'm afraid to say. I've
go as far as this, and I was always very critical. Shame leave Dobbo alone for today.
Sorry,
I was very critical of Jake at one stage, but I have to concede something. You know, even you look at how big his coaching team is. He's allowing people to assess certain areas of play, taking in that information, combining it in the way that they're playing. They've got a points difference of plus 155 points, which speaks for itself. Okay, and then you look at bringing in like Fourie du Preez to assist him on Van Zyl. I mean, that's just like next generation thinking and saying, you know what, I might not know everything, but let me find people that maybe do have a little bit more advantage, or guys, ex-players that can add value, like you see in the New Zealand setup.
But is that coming from Jake, or is that coming from the lad that's a CEO?
Well, who would know?
No, it's Jake. Edgar Rathbone is a very, very talented CEO, young guy, who's allowed Jake to be the director of rugby and come in. Jake White's formula is consistent with Jake White's coaching career. He's always come in and picked the team up, cleaned them up, got them conditioned, identified well, and made them winners straight away. his Achilles heel has been he's never been able to stick around and sustain that. So he's never taken a team and built a legacy for 5 years. He's gone after 2 years to the next team that's sixth, and he's taken them to 2, and they've won something. To me, his best year is always going to be this year.
Would you say it's like a Donald Trump?
No, not at all. Not at all.
That he causes chaos and destruction.
No, not at all. He comes in. He's done what we thought he would do this year. Next year he'll be. This year he'll be strong. The challenge has always been.
He's building a team for the North, isn't he?
Completely, but will he have the impact in 2022, 2023? He has said when he joined the Bulls, this one's going to be different. I want to stick around and build a legacy.
Yeah.
So no one's ever disputed his ability to come in and he did it with the Brumbies, he did it with Montpellier, he did it with the Sharks. He's now done it with the Bulls. That to me is his track record. He did it with the Springboks and he got silverware wherever he went. But he's always left when no one actually wanted him around after 2 years or 3 years. And that's been the sad thing. And I hope for his legacy that can actually change and that he stays loyal to the Bulls and feels he wants to be there for the next 5 years.
And also have a different public impression of him.
Yeah.
He won a World Cup 2007, give him his kudos for that. But I think in terms of his reputation overall and how people view him, as Mark's saying, he now is intent on changing.
It was nice to see Dwayne Vermeulen say it's fantastic to have Jake and Rassie here in the country.
Yeah.
And he's playing for both, nationally and provincially. And if we can sustain that, it gives our rugby great intellectual capital around the boardroom. The key was, do the two Bulls go into the same den, And Jake, being the senior statesman, had to be the one that said, it's your time, Rassie, as director of rugby.
Yeah.
I fit into what you want from a national perspective, but I'm building my own dynasty with the Bulls, but to service the Springboks, not at the expense of the Springboks. And I think he has done that this year. What he's doing has certainly got a national feel to it as well, and it's not just Bulls in isolation. And for that, kudos to him for getting that right.
I think
Look, none of us here wanted to see Jake fail. Nobody wants to, we want to celebrate rugby. We've had now, 15 months without a test rugby
match,
game?
yeah.
People are starving for rugby. And it's great. It's just too bad that it happened in a year of COVID.
And with all due respect, the Bulls is, in terms of like an Afrikaner brand, a team that people want to see do well. And it's important for the health of South African rugby that they are one of the dominant teams.
And just the history in that region. If the Bulls are strong, Springbok rugby tends to generally be better than worse. So Bulls to take it for me.
That's a long. We said we were going to have a 5-minute conversation.
Yep.
Right? Rugby always seems to hook us into a longer conversation. James, what do you say about the Bulls? What say ye? Meneer Dalton.
The Bulls versus who? Okay, well let's first. Okay, I would go for the Bulls. They've scored the most amount of tries in the competition. They've conceded the least, I think also the least amount of tries, and they've had general dominance and ascendancy. And if you look at having a Mornay Steyn with his ability to kick from virtually everywhere and any distance on the field, I think that's going to be massive. And if you're going to take those 3 points and you dominate in a team up front, then I think I'm going to go for the Bulls, just as a win. End of story. No margin.
The bookies are saying about 8.5.
Okay.
What do you think of that?
I think it's
going to be a one-score game, 5 to 7 points. When they played it, Ellis Park was 32-25. And the Bulls were hanging on in the end. When they played at Loftus, I think it was a 3-pointer, Bulls were hanging on in the end. Both games, there were periods where it looked like the Bulls were just going to take it away. And somehow the Lions hung in there, kind of negated them at the breakdown. And they're a very well-conditioned side, the Lions. Very fit. So if you look at the Lions and the Bulls, the thing that's been very obvious for me is just how they seem to last the 80 minutes. When I've looked at the Sharks and Province, they just seem to be a bit off the pace.
Look, guys, I have to say this. For me, the Lions have shown the most improvement and have been consistent in terms of winning. I think the last 4 games in a row. What my big concern for the Lions is I don't think their bench is impactful enough. And I think if they gas their players in a upfront battle and they get them exhausted and they don't get that ascendancy and dominate the game line and the contact and that, I don't think that bench that they're going to bring on is going to have enough to pull them over the line. Yeah. I think that for me is going to be key critical in the last 20 minutes. The key factor for me in both these semi-finals is going to be the team that can manage the breakdown the best in terms of when to hold them, when to fold them. You know the song by Kenny Rogers, when to stick your hands in or when to manage.
Kenny never said anything about sticking hands in.
Yeah. Or just let if the ball is there, let the opposition play it and defend them. If the side who manages, the teams who manage that the best in the semi-finals at the breakdown without giving away unnecessary penalties will be the winners. Yeah. In my opinion.
Well, I think the Bulls will pull away. I think it'd be close for the first 25 minutes, and then scoreboard pressure. I think Mornay Stein will keep scoreboard pressure ticking, and then they'll have to look for those tries rather.
I'll get that 13-point lead, and then that the Lions have to score twice to effectively win.
So for me, I mean, I thank God for the 2 nostrils on my face this year because they're the only things I've picked all year. The rugby has been an absolute disaster. But I feel confident that the Bulls will win by 10 or more this weekend.